That's closer than I thought I was gonna be.
This! Oh no.
I think you missed the turn.
This is a 1992 Mazda Miata. It is the 1.6 and it is the car that's going to get the free valve. It is fantastic in every way. There is absolutely no flaws with it whatsoever. And yes, I bought this from a lovely lady that was living in a van down by the Denver River. And it is an excellent car. It has 163,000 miles on it. And it runs like a top after I replaced a clutch master cylinder. And the most important part is, headlights go up, headlights go down. Headlights go up, headlights go down. I'm honestly in love with this car. It's fantastic in every way. I love NAs to death, and I'm so excited to have one. It's the best. It is 8 degrees this morning, so I'm gonna close that door and start a fire. Let's get to work. I think one of the biggest reasons why fires fail for a lot of people is the wrong type of wood and not using the correct lighting source. So this video is going to jump back and forth between Colorado and Arizona a little bit, but let's go over a few of the design changes and a completely new design that I'm actually working on. The changes that I made to the pneumatic design that you saw in the last video are mostly cosmetic and storage places for all of the solenoids and just kind of finishing up that and making it look nice. So that design has the benefit of meeting all of the mathematical requirements for this engine to work, and you'll see my placement for the little box is actually a little bit further away. The heat restrictions on those fast-acting solenoids are fairly low, so I wanted to get that away from the top of the engine. And the longer leads coming from the solenoids going into the pistons really only accounts for 1 to 2 milliseconds of delay, best I can figure, which for our application and for today's testing is perfectly fine, and I'll just program that in. But we'll go over that in just a moment. So as we look at the valve itself and actually how this is held on, the electro-pneumatic version uses this version, which has a spring and the little spring retainer, which is not needed on the other version. It of course has that little keeper ring, and then that flout washer, the actual factory valve seat in there that holds all that in place, so I'm not changing any of that. No crazy parts there. And then the set screw, and then the threaded part at the end can either get the adapter to version 2 or the original design that we implemented there. So that hasn't changed much. The only difference between the two is that the spring and spring retainer are not needed on version 2. So, what is version 2? So if we go back to the original video that I posted on this, one of the things that I was trying to do was electromagnets. Obviously electromagnets aren't great for this purpose, so solenoids. I have been doing extensive testing on a few solenoids, and I actually came up with this design for how everything could come together and work in just using solenoids. Obviously this pulls quite a bit more amps, and I actually haven't assembled and tested this yet. So we're gonna put together one, not the entire thing, but we're gonna put together one and see if it would even work on the basic mechanic principles of it. Now, I know for a fact the electric solenoids that I ordered are not quick enough to actuate a valve system. I want to make sure my mechanics are good before I order in custom solenoids or anything like that. I do believe it's possible. Interestingly enough, the biggest problem I'm having is finding something big enough to hold the valve closed without a spring to make it double acting and still move quick enough. And there's actually some interesting mathematical principles in there. It should theoretically work. But I'm doing some testing. If anyone knows some manufacturers for some cool electric solenoids, I'd be happy to look into them. But for right now, I want to get the first part tested out, see if we're even in the ballpark as far as actuating it mechanically.
I know this looks like spaghetti, but this is what I'm basically trying to do. I just have it held together with clamps and stuff here, but you can see that with this simple Arduino program, I can control these solenoids very, very well, and I mean, it pushes those rockers down just like it should.
Just another thing electronically, one of the most commented things on my last freevalve video was crank position sensor and how I did that wrong. So we're going to do it right. This is from Miata. It is just their standard little crank sensor thing, and I'm going to use a factory 95, whatever it is, crank sensor to make it all work. The problem is that in order to use this on a 92, it is a process and you need a lot of parts. You'll need a 96 to 05 crank pulley, a 96 to 05 dampener mounting plate, a timing belt guide, a 94 to 97 alternator, 94 to 97 water pump pulley, and a 99 to 05 crank sensor. I don't want to deal with any of that. I'm going to put it on a thing, extend it out off the pulley, and not do all that.
My other problem is a cam position sensor. These never had a crank position sensor from the factory, i.e. why there's an additional one that gets put on there. And this is what tells the spark plugs when to fire, and it's not anything fancy. So that being said, I can't keep it there because I'm deleting camshafts, so I built an adapter for it to go on to where the crank position pulley is added on, so it just spins entirely like it would from the factory, just in a different place.
Just a little more detail on that cam position sensor. This is what I came up with. It adapts to the 2 bolts that hold on the lower timing belt cover. The factory timing belt pulley has 23 teeth. That one right there has 46, same as the original cam pulley. I'm just deleting the belt. I fully understand that this is not a very good design and will wear out very quickly and is generally not a good idea, but it's really just for a proof of concept.
So let's talk electronics. We got a few things going on here. First of all, this is a transistor. More specifically, it's a metal oxide field effect transistor, or a MOSFET. It's used in similar ways compared to a relay, except it can switch a lot faster for our application. These can actually switch in about 30 microseconds compared to the switching speed of our electric solenoids, which is about 3 milliseconds, or about a 33rd of a second. The cool part about these is they can take a simple logic level output from a signal, like from our Arduino, and convert it to pretty much whatever voltage we put in across. I believe these are rated for about 60 volts. So whether it's our pneumatic solenoids, which run at about 1/4 of an amp and 24 volts, or our electric solenoids, which run at about 1.5 and 12 volts, it can handle either one no problem. So my plans with this are pretty much, because I have a spare head, I'm just going to keep this one completely assembled so I can swap that back on and have a Miata whenever I want, and then swap back and forth between them as needed. I'm, to be completely honest, not sure how much of this is factory, and that's obviously not. I also completely forgot about PCV valves and stuff like that. So I'll probably just drill a hole and put one in like that. I'll do something. Alright, let's get this valve cover off. I thought Miatas were supposed to be easy to work on. I'm trying to find these bottom intake bolts are a lot. Oh yeah, I did not drain coolant before I did this, so that's probably gonna be a mess. Alright, there it goes. Please get it. It is still attached. It's not that. Oh, it's that. Alright. I left it from here. Something's attached. There it goes. Whew. Alright. Well, alright, I'm gonna get all this coolant out of here before bad things happen. We're replacing that, of course. Alright. Real quick, here's a plastic mock-up of the of one of those valve assemblies. You can see the spring in there. This is just out of the plastic, and then that glides in there. And then we grab one of these. That sits on there like that. And grab one of these and face it the right way. Put it on the right one. That goes right in there like that. And then locks into those pins. And then those can still, we just grab a spare valve here. Those can still slide up and down. And then our pistons and stuff attach onto there. I already showed that all in the last video. If you want to see any of that, go check out that last video. Gonna get this bolted on here and dressed out, because everything else, oh, and switch those out for the steel ones, because everything else can be done on the top of the motor. Realistically, the only thing, you could actually do this without pulling the head. Everything is bolt on, of course. You could do this without pulling the head, but you would need a way to get the valve springs off, which without compressing the backside of that valve there. So it's easier, I'm going to say, to pull the head. But alright, so putting this back together is almost exactly the same as taking it apart, so I'm just going to do that really quick. I'm not going to reconnect serpentine belt for power steering, but of course I am going to do alternator. I am also going to, I also need to make these pieces, and I also need to tighten everything down up there, but
yeah, I'm just going to get this put back together. Oh, and then I'm going to do my timing gear.
Alright, got a lot done last night. I'm gonna get this welded up, the cylinders mounted and stuff like that. I got these cute little guys, expensive cute little guys, to go on the outside of that to feed our main pressure in, and then run the main lines for this. I took a look at the footage I have so far, and I'm probably gonna do code in a second video because there's literally 10 to 15 minutes of me explaining some code. So I'm probably going to do that in a future video, and just focus on the mechanics and getting it running right now.
So we got the box assembled, and these two manifolds lined up, and then these are just the big main lines in. For just the idling testing, we're probably going to run them off the air compressor here at the house, but then I got a setup in the trunk that might work. And then, so that's a solenoid box. We got our end cap on. We got some silicone on this so that everything should seal. I know we got a little bit of a gap there. So I'm gonna have to seal that up somehow, but we'll get to work on that. I'm gonna run all the airlines and then run all the connections, and so this box is probably gonna stay right there until I find a more permanent place. I'm a little bit short on airline. I ordered a little bit too little of that, so we'll figure it out, but we're really close. Alright, I think this is it. I got all of my solenoids wired up, I got all the lines piped. This is just running in over the hood, but I just testing. And it's actually running to a soldered version of the circuit board that I showed earlier in the video. From here, oh, I'm missing my two pressure lines. These are just running to two outputs on the same air compressor. That's closer than I thought I was going to be. Alright. I absolutely have license plates. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Come on. Now everybody's gonna think I staged this. No way. Airbag light went off after I jiggled the steering wheel a little bit. Oh, no, it's just flat. Probably nothing. started this project about 2 months ago, the most often asked question is, can I buy this? And I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to take all of the files, all of the software and everything for this, and it'll be linked in the description in a few days. It's all free. And my main reasoning for that is I don't want money to stand in the way of technology. I think this is something that's pretty cool, and I hope you do too. And I'm excited to see what the world does with it, because there's a million engineers out there, there's a million tinkerers out there, there's a million software developers out there that are way smarter than me. I'm a terrible programmer. I have a year of computer science underneath my belt, and it does not show. Holy cow, it's bad. So I want to see what the world can do with this, because I think there's potential here. Because, I mean, you could go to a dyno and get a fuel map, a ignition map, and then a cam map, and tune the valves for whatever you need to do that day, whether it's horsepower, whether it's torque, whether it's race, and you can optimize all of that. I mean, going back to programming, if you did something with machine learning and were able to train an algorithm to run on a specific engine, I mean, the opportunities are endless. The electro-pneumatic design is an inspired design, without a doubt. I mean, look at the title of this video. But the solenoid stuff, I'm excited to explore that, because I like doing stuff from the ground up, and I think it's a very cool premise, and that's the more efficient design by far, because while alternators are no perfect as far as it comes to efficiency, it's better than a piston-driven air compressor. So I'm really going to spend some time and develop that more and see what I can do with it. I mean, and of course those are going to go up on the internet too, so see what you can do with it. See what changes you can make to improve it, make it stronger, make it faster, make it better. Again, let me know on solenoid manufacturers. I want to see what I can do here. And I want to see what you guys can do here. I mean, this is what it's all about. This is why I started posting videos on the internet, is because there's always room for improvement. There's always things you can do to make things better, to make things more efficient. I mean, I want to take this and put it on a hypermiling car. I want to take this and put it on a rotary. See what we can do with it. Going forward, obviously I'm going to continue to work on it, but because it takes so much time to develop, I mean, there's a ton of time, and like I've been very, very busy these past few weeks, so I'm going to focus on a few of the other interesting videos I have coming down the pike, but I'm going to work on this in my free time and in the spare time. And I'm going to keep you updated on the changes that I'm making to it and the ideas that I have and the concepts that I'm perfecting. But it's going to take a little bit to just work through all of this, and I want to make it a great thing. I will probably go over a price breakdown once all the dust settles in a future video. Probably the coding video. I'll probably do just a recap on everything. It's not cheap. I don't know. My definition of cheap and a lot of other people's definition of cheap is very different. Let's put it this way. It's less than a nice exhaust. To recap, I'm over the moon that it worked as well as it did. That being said, there's literally 2 to 3 weeks behind that I didn't film, because it's very repetitive, very redundant testing. I mean, tweaking the little details, the little tiny things here and there. I mean, there's a lot of time in this, but I mean, the payoff is amazing. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm super excited. I'm super excited to see what you guys can do with it. Again, that'll be up in the description below in a few days. I'm gonna put all the files together and put all the code together and make sure all that's good to go. So keep an eye out for that if you want to tinker around with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the project so far, and please, if you liked it, like it, subscribe, comment below what you thought, comment below your ideas, your concepts. I read all your comments. You guys have some great ideas. I learn things every single day, so it's amazing. Again, thank you very much for watching.
Oh, do I have brake? Oh, brakes are
brakes.